Okay, can you see my screen from your end? Just confirm.
Yes. Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
So welcome now to data analytics course. So I know this term is not new to you. You've probably have heard about it. So data analytics. Let's let me just describe what data is. Data are actually raw facts about uh, a given phenomenon. So, for example, you might be having data regarding your customers, you might be having data regarding maybe your patients, maybe. So, data is actually everywhere, and organizations are actually struggling to make use of this data, given that with the advancement of technology, organizations are producing gigabytes of data every day. So as we see into the future, in the next 5 years, there will be massive explosion of data. So organization will be unable to handle this data. So this industry for the data science is expected to grow by, for example, by 2025. So, and more data scientists, more data analysts, more data architects, and more data engineers will be needed in order to handle this data. So, in this data domain field, so there are many careers in it. There are data analysts, we have data engineers, we have data architects, and we have data scientists. But all of these professions, they can work hand in hand or they can work as a team in order to enhance the power that comes with data. So in this course, what we expect to learn in today's introduction. So we want to understand what we mean by data analytics. And also we need to know what this data analytics is used for. And then we have to understand the roles and the responsibilities of a data analyst. We need to understand the steps involved in data analytics, skills needed to become a data analyst. Then we will cover some modern data management practices, go into characteristic of modern data management, and also see the best practices to achieve modern data management. So as you can see, as I've described in the objective, so yes, having the skills in data analytics is important, but also you must understand how to manage that data, how to develop pipelines of collecting that data. You have to know also the data protection policies that are in place, the governance. That's why we'll cover modern data management practices. And then you have also to know how you can enhance data integrity in your organization. So as a data analyst, you should know, you should have, or you should be conversant with all these skill set. So I'll go straight away to point number one. We understand what we mean by data analytics. So data analytics is the process of analyzing raw data, so that we can be able to pull insights which are useful to companies. So when you have data, for example, if your organization has data, so in its raw form, it is not useful at all. So
Excuse
now,
me, Fred.
hello, yes,
Sorry to interrupt. Do you mind maximizing your screen a bit small,
okay,
kindly?
okay. How about now?
It's better, much better.
Okay, okay. So we were discussing what data analytics. So and we've said it's just the process of analyzing raw data so that we can be able to pull insights from that data, and those insights can enable the management of the company or of the business to make more informed decisions. So as I earlier said, when you have data in your organization in its raw form, it's not useful. So there is need for you to match that data, to analyze it, so that you can come up with insightful information from that data, so that it can enable the business to make informed decisions. So it's a form of business intelligence that is being derived from that data. So uh, in the past, organizations did not actually rely on data to make decisions. So some management or some business managers or operational managers, they used to make this decision just based on their opinion, but they did not have facts that could drive their decisions. So, but with modern business management, it is highly required that every decision that the company is making is actually backed up data by data. So data can actually be described as the engine of the company, because without it you cannot be able to make informed decisions. So and when you don't make informed decisions which are backed by your data, your company may end up maybe making losses, or maybe due to competition in the market, maybe you might be struck out of the market. So you actually need this data to come up with strategies in which you can help to shape the future direction of your company. So that process of now analyzing, processing, cleaning that data, that is what is called data analytics. So maybe if there is any question up to that point with regard to what data analytics entails. Ruth, you satisfied up to that point?
Yes, all good for me.
Yeah. So now let us actually look what data analytics is used for. So as I've described from just the definition of data analytics, so we have said that data analytics is useful in making informed business decisions. So it is a form of business intelligence that uh, help shape the decision-making process by the management of a company. So one of the use of data analytics here actually is making faster, better, and smart business decisions. So this decision may be like, for example, a company may want to reduce its overall operational cost. Maybe it may want to come up with new products and services and so on. Or maybe may want to come up with, sorry for that. So as I was saying, so data analytics is used in making better business decisions. So unfair decision may be, for example, a company wants to reduce its overall operational cost, or it may want up to come up with a new marketing strategy. So it may also want to come up with new products, maybe that it wants to introduce into the market. So business decisions are so many that a company needs to make, and all these decisions will just rely on data. So that is one of the use of data analytics. Another use is, for example, predicting future sales or purchasing behavior. So you can just take a case scenario, for example, uh, of a company. Maybe you have maybe data for previous years of sales, and maybe you have also data concerning your customers, and maybe from their future behavior you might want to predict their purchasing behavior. For example, you might see maybe a trend of certain products. Maybe a certain product has been selling maybe at certain periods of the year. So with that, you can actually predict uh, the future purchasing behavior of your customers. So having such data can help you achieve that. So number three, uh, we have also it can also help you in protecting against fraud. So hope you've come across this term called cyber security. So and this is where data protection policies have come into play to protect against fraud. So with data analytics, you can develop algorithms. So using advanced techniques like machine learning. So with that, you can know whether a fraud has been committed. So we have things to do like supervised machine learning, unsupervised machine learning. Those are models that can enable a company detect whether a fraud has been committed. So what normally happens when you have data regarding maybe your customers, you can train a machine. So a machine here with I'm not implying a machine here is a model, so don't take it as if it's a physical machine. So it's just a model that is being developed. It's kind of like an algorithm that learns from the data. So out of this data, it can actually predict it can predict if there is any fraud that has been committed based on how it has learned the data. So these machine learning models, they are being trained on the data, and then when they are given a new data set, and given that it had been trained on the previous data set, it can be able to predict whether there is an anomaly in that data. So that is where we can say now that with the data, you can also help in predicting and maybe preventing in fraud. So it goes hand in hand with cyber security. So for example, in banks, um, I think these machine learning models can be put in place to detect whether there are any cases of fraud. So another thing is another use of data analytics. It can be used to analyze the effectiveness of marketing campaigns. So let me explain this. For example, you are running a marketing campaign and you've done so in the maybe in the previous periods. So for example, if we adopted this marketing as a particular marketing strategy, then after some time we will have to, based on the data that we've collected and the experience in the market, we can be able to gather statistics and weigh whether our marketing campaigns were effective or not. And if they were not effective, what are the strategies that we need to put in place so that we can enhance our marketing campaigns? So, for example, you are introducing a new product in the market. So, after some time, you gather some information on how that product is performing in the market. So with that, for example, maybe you had employed several marketing strategies. From that, you can collect that data and analyze and weigh now which marketing campaign is efficient for your organization. So with this, it can help you in cutting costs on your marketing campaigns. So that's also one use of data analytics. Another is to boost customer acquisition and retention. So I think this goes hand in hand. For example, when you are predicting customer behavior. For example, you have a list of customers in your organizations. So you will normally have those customers that bring in huge chunk of revenue uh, to your company. So from data analytics, you can get this information. You can classify your customers. For example, these are high-end customers, these are low-end customers, and this will actually enable you in actually prioritizing which customers do you really need in your organization. So with the help of data, you can actually be able to achieve this. So you can able to boost customer acquisition, you can acquire new customer, and also retain you can retain maybe the existing customer. So I believe this is where actually data analytics is important, because customers are, are actually the priority in any organization. So you don't just want to lose your customers anyhow. So you just have to know your customers well, so that you can strategize, so that you can be able to make informed decision regarding which customers do you really value most, and why. and what strategies will you put in place in order to retain them? So that is one use of data analytics. So also data analytics is used in supply chain management and so on. So what I've just highlighted here, these are just some of the uses of data analytics, but the list is not actually exhaustive. So there are many roles, or there are many things data analytics can be used for. These are just but a few. But what a data analyst does in any company might be different from what another data analyst is doing in another company. So these roles can actually vary, but the variation is not that much. So that is just a summary of what actually data analytics is used for. So from this you can see actually how useful data analytics is to any company. Yeah, any question on regarding to the uses of data analytics, or any comment? So maybe you might want to know how is it used maybe in a particular industry. So you see here, for example, we've said it's used in supply chain management. Also, we have data analytics is also used in HR, in hiring, and so on. Winnie, I haven't heard from you. I don't know whether we are together.
Yes, we are together. I'm following.
Yeah, yeah. So those are the uses of data analytics. So just allow me to go to the next slide. A minute, please. So, hope you can see my screen. Confirm from your end whether it's visible.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. So what actually does a data analyst do? Yeah. So maybe you might want to know what are the roles of a data analyst. So the roles, also the list of the roles of a data analyst are so many, but I'll just mention a few here. So when, for example, you are employed in an organization as a data analyst, there are roles that you will be assigned, and these roles maybe might vary from company to company, but all in all, they might narrow down to almost the same thing. So, one of the roles here of a data analyst, for example, you've been employed as a data analyst, and then you have to collect data uh, regarding the customers of your company. So you've been tasked with doing a survey on the customers. So how do customers rate your company? So as a data analyst, you might be tasked with doing user satisfaction surveys and reporting on the results. So I give a case scenario of, for instance, myself. So I work, for example, I was tasked with collecting data regarding how customers view a particular brand of our product, and they had to give a rating on how they interact with the product. So we have a software that is used to do survey. That's the Kobo Toolbox. So this was an online survey that were actually doing. So after doing the survey, you have now to analyze that survey and see how satisfied the customers are with your products. So that I think is one role of a data analyst. So you need to know how the customers interact with the company, what is their perception regarding the product they are using from your company, and so on. And with this, you can share the insights that you obtain from these surveys. You can share the insights with the management so that they can actually make customer centric decisions. So, and one instance where these customer surveys are actually important, for example, when a company is actually introducing a new product in the market, so they might want to collect information regarding how customers are interacting with this product. So they might want to know, for example, whether this product is meeting their needs, or what is their view regarding the product, what is their view regarding the pricing of that product. So all this information, you collect them and analyze that information. So at the end of it all, you have a full view of how the customers are actually viewing that product in the market. And also you might also collect insights regarding maybe what needs to be added on that product so that they can purchase it. So as a data analyst, at some point you might have such a scenario whereby you have to conduct a survey and analyze that data, visualize it, and then present a report to the management. So with this, there's something that we call customer journeys. So customer journey is the journey is actually how the customers are interacting with your brand. How do customers actually what is their perception regarding your brand in the market? So as a data analyst, you might do these surveys and come up with insights that can enable management maybe to make better decisions, whether maybe they need to upgrade that product or maybe they have to review the pricing of that product and so on. So that's one role of the data analyst. So the second role, you might be tasked, maybe you might be working with business line owners to develop requirements, define success metrics, manage and execute analytical projects, and evaluate results. So when you are hired as a data analyst, maybe your role may revolve around working as part of a team. Maybe you might be working maybe with the business owners. You may also be working maybe with fellow data engineers, maybe with data scientists. You might also be working with IT guys So when, for example, a new product is being introduced in the market, or a company is trying up to come with a new product. So as a data analyst, you might find yourself in a scenario whereby you have to work with these parties so that you can come up with requirements. So you have to come up with defined metrics that you will use to measure the success of that product and so on. So as a data analyst, so you might be tasked to do that. So one thing that you need to know is that a data analyst is also dependent on others. So as a data analyst, maybe you might not have the know-how maybe of the infrastructure that you need maybe to collect that data, maybe to store that data and so on. So, and this is where actually data engineers come in. So they come in to develop data pipelines and maybe ETLs. Also, they have to develop how that data will be stored and so on. So you will be required to work alongside these teams. So another role is to monitor practices, processes, and systems to identify opportunities for improvement. So I think that is self-explanatory. So as a data analyst, you must be all round. So you must know all data management practices. You must know all the data processes, and also you must know the system. So for example, you want to extract data, this data are stored in databases or they are stored in the systems, maybe the system that your organization is using. So you have to actually audit these systems and identify if there are any areas that need improvement, so that maybe you can be able to streamline the data collection processes, the data storage processes, and so on. So that's also one of the roles of a data analyst. So another thing is on translate important questions into concrete analytical tasks. So here as a data analyst, maybe you've interacted with your system for so long, maybe the system that you use to collect data, or maybe the data that you are using, maybe you need something to be improved on it. So maybe you want to measure a certain metric and yet it is not being captured on your system. Here you can network with maybe the software developers, the data engineer, to come up with these questions that can enable you to answer your business problems. So that's another role. So another one is to gather new data to answer client questions, collating that information and organizing that data from multiple sources. So I think that I had already discussed in our previous point, so I won't dwell much on that. Another role is to establish data processes, define data quality criteria, and implement data quality processes. So let me assume now you are a data analyst. So maybe you are the head of, of the department, the data department. So you have to come up with the data processes. You have to come up with data quality assessment criteria, and you have to implement those data quality measures. So there's this saying that normally goes that garbage in is garbage out. So you must ensure that the data that is being collected in your system, or that the data that your organization is storing, is actually of good quality, so that whenever you've analyzed this data and you are using it actually to make business decisions, there is no room. So we are, as we had said, that we depend on data to make business decision. So if that data is not of good quality, we might end up making a poor business decisions that will negatively impact the company. So as a data analyst, you have to establish data processes, you have to define data quality criteria, and also implement the data quality processes. So I think those are the roles of a data analyst, but there are so many roles that a data analyst can do. So I just handpicked a few. Maybe you can do a research on the rest. Hope now I'm clear up to that point. Maybe I'm not leaving anyone behind.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Okay, so Fred, I have one question. So does it, okay, do all organizations really require a data analyst, or a data analyst should just go and fix themselves somewhere and create a position for themselves? Or is it like mandatory organizations to have data analysts?
Okay. Thanks for that question. So in today's industry, or in today's job market or industry, let me say that industry, I think data analysts are needed in almost all industries, be it manufacturing, be it telecommunication, be it medicine, be it NGOs, be it government sectors. A data analyst is required, because how will you be able to make important business decision without the hard facts, without the evidence from data? So it means organizations that do not have data analysts, maybe they are making their decision solely based on intuition, but not based on facts. But uh, but data analysts are actually needed in almost all sectors, for sure. So the data analytics profession, I believe it cuts across almost all industries. So
Okay, thank you.
I think it's best practice. It is best practice for all companies, regardless of the sector in which that company or industry it is in. They should be having a data analyst. Even business owners, even for example, an entrepreneur who is maybe running a shop, he actually needs data analytics skills, so that he can actually analyze his business performance. So I think it's just because maybe this data analytics field is I believe it's not fully adopted, for example, maybe in Kenya, but I think in the next or in future, all companies or all organizations will see the need of having a data analyst or a data scientist in their company. Okay, so
Maybe let me ask, when you talk about established data processes, what do you mean by data processes? Just clarify that.
okay, establish data processes. So data, for example, in a company, for example, where I work. So I have come up with data processes. For example, how data is being handled. So these data processes might involve, for example, the accessibility of the data. Who in the company is allowed maybe to access this data? Because in a company you must come up with a data protection policy. So you must come up with data processes. For example, where I work, data is supposed maybe to be handled by the guys who are working in the data analytics department. So it's just coming up with policies regarding the use of the data. And also, it also involve how this data is being used. So, for example, remember this Data Protection Act, it was actually implemented recently in Kenya. So, for example, if your organization is collecting data from customers, how are you using this data? So, you must come up with actually a process that documents how you intend to use this customer data. So as a data analyst, you have to come up with these processes and actually make sure they are in place and also in line with the government act or with the government policy, so that there is no infringement with the Data Protection Act. So and also it's not only that. So as I had mentioned earlier, you might be working with several stakeholders. So for example, when you are working with data engineers, you are working with data scientists. So for example, if you have such roles in your company, so it must be clear cut who does what and to what extent, because a data analyst maybe might not be doing the work for a data engineer. For example, for my case, I'm not the one who is responsible for developing the data pipeline on how the data that we gather from customers is being collected. So we have data engineers who are reserved for that. So I have to come up with a data process, then give it to them. I tell them this is how I want this data to be structured. So in their design of their database, so they will know my requirements that I need, so that whenever I'm analyzing this data, it's actually meeting my need that I want to achieve. So I think that is why, as a data analyst, you have to come up with data processes and also define the data quality criteria and also implement the same. Are you okay?
Yes, that's okay.
Yeah.
You're gonna share the notes, right?
I'll share the PPT.
Slides.
Yeah.
Okay.
So So work as part of a team, I think it's the same as working with business line line owners and so on. So I think I can now go to the next and the steps which are involved in data analytics. So for example, when you are hired as a data analyst, you must know the processes that are involved in data analysis. So being aware of the processes or the steps that you need to follow in data analytics, it will actually give you a guidance or a framework that will enable you work smoothly in achieving your end goal. So the first step that is normally involved in data analysis is defining the questions that you need to answer. So you don't just wake up and you say you just want to analyze this. So the first thing you have to actually understand the business requirement. What do you need? What do you need to answer before even you begin conducting that analysis? So it really revolves around what do you want to achieve at the end of that analysis. So this is the first step that will actually guide you, uh, or it will actually shape the direction in which you will analyze your data. For example, maybe we want to maybe introduce a new product in the market, and maybe we might want to collect information regarding how that product is performing in the market. So we have to come up with defined questions regarding what do we want to achieve at the end. So maybe one of the things that we need to know, maybe we might want to know which channel our customers coming from. So that is one of the things. So when I'm collecting my data, I'm sure I need to collect data regarding the channels in which we are getting our customers. So maybe I might want to know maybe which brands do our customers want. So all that revolve around defining what you actually need to achieve at the end. So after you've defined the questions that you need to answer, so you begin the process of data collection. So data collection, so when you are actually introducing a new product, so maybe you might do a survey, maybe you might develop a questionnaire in which you may the customers will be filling and so on. So you just have to know your data collection to come up with the questions that the customers need to answer and so on. So in this data collection, it's divided into two. So you can obtain this data from primary and secondary sources. For example, when you are conducting a survey, maybe you are collecting this data using questionnaires, and maybe it is collected when maybe you are using mobile data collection. Nowadays, we've implemented modern data collection techniques, maybe using, for example, mobile phone. Customers can fill in information and you can get that data in real time. So with that, you can collect the demographic information regarding your customers, the products that they are they are using most, and so on. So when you are actually doing a survey from scratch, you will use the primary data collection method. So another method is secondary methods. So for example, maybe this data is stored in your organization database. So pulling it, so the data being stored in a database in an organization, so that is a secondary data source. So maybe you can collect it from there and now begin your analysis. So the next step after data collection is data cleaning. So after you've collected your data, so data in its raw format is normally dirty. So if this data is dirty, you need to clean it. So maybe you might find there are some invalid entries in your data. So you have to get rid of them. So maybe your data might contain some outliers. So you need to know how to handle outliers in your data. So maybe also your data contains some missing information. Maybe there are some blanks. So you actually need to get rid of them. So you want actually the data that you want to analyze to be of good quality. By quality, I mean it should be clean, so that at the end of the day, the results that I'll get will be actually informative of actually the customer experience on the ground. So that at the end of the day, I don't get misleading information from my data. So I actually have to ensure my data is clean. So in data cleaning, what we normally do is data exploration. You have to in data exploration will enable you to identify whether there are outliers in your data, whether there are missing data, or whether there are blanks, or whether there are invalid entries in your data, and so on. So another step is now, after you've cleaned your data, you can now begin analyzing the data. So in your day-to-day work as a data analyst, I think data cleaning is the most tedious part. So it takes almost 70% of your time. So to analyze it doesn't take that much time, but you will spend much time in ensuring that your data is in correct format. So before you can now begin your analysis. So in data cleaning, this is actually where you have actually to do a lot of work. So after you've cleaned your data, you can now analyze it. So in analyzing it, you can make a lot of analysis from it. You can either do descriptive analysis, you can do predictive, prescriptive analysis, and so on. There are so many analyses that you can do with your data. So the fourth step is that you actually should do is to analyze the data. So I think the final step is now to interpret and share the results. So this is most business stakeholders are more concerned on the last step, on the interpretation and sharing of the results. At this fifth step, here is whereby you are giving insights from your data. What are your findings from your data, and what are you recommending as the steps that the business should take uh, in making the decision? So in most part, this is why you interact with the senior management. Maybe you go meet with our CEO or your operations manager or whoever it is. So you have to explain to him or her what's actually happening with the business. So at this point, you have to share your business intelligence, because this is actually what will inform the next decision that the management will take. So these steps are actually uh, iterative. So maybe you at some point you might find you've analyzed your data, maybe, and maybe you've realized there's something that you didn't capture in your data. Maybe you might skip back to maybe to the first step or second step or the third step or so. So these steps are iterative, but this is generally the flow of the data analytics process. So the first thing, define the question, collect the data, clean it, analyze that data, then interpret and share the results. So I think those are the basic steps that are needed in data analysis. Maybe if there's any question up to that point, it's just an introduction. We'll be covering these steps once we have our data and running with it in Excel.
So I have one question. So all all the steps are done by the data analysts,
Yeah.
or there's a place where the data engineer comes into place, or other people?
So a data engineer actually is concerned more on the infrastructure. For example, a data engineer may design how the data will be collected. He may come up with for example, the pipeline now. He might come up with a database. So I believe when we'll be learning SQL, you will get more to know what a data engineer does. So as part of what a data engineer does, is responsible for coming up with a database that will be used to actually store company data. So you will work hand in hand with a data engineer. So a data analyst is not the one who is responsible for now creating a database or developing the pipeline on how that data will be collected. So it's the responsibility of a data engineer. Maybe where a data analyst will come in, he will come in now when now maybe you want to access that data. So he will access that data from the database. But that database has been designed by the data engineer. So he will be responsible for just pulling the data, cleaning it, analyzing it, and then interpreting the results and sharing insights to the management. So rarely will you find a data engineer doing a data analyst job of maybe of cleaning the data, analyzing it, and sharing the results. Is the only one who is just coming up with the design. It just designs and design how that data will be collected and how it will be stored.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any question? Hope I'm not locking anyone behind on this part for the steps of data analytics.
Also, Fred, who defines the question? Is it the data analyst?
Yeah, it's the data analyst because he's the one who knows the end. What does he or she want to achieve at the end? So it's the data analyst who define the question. So maybe you will work with the data engineer and maybe he will give them direction. So I want to do this data analytic task and I will want to collect information of these variables. For example, I might want to know the customer ID. I might want to know the customer age. I want to know the customer gender, all those demographic variables of the customer. So he comes up with all those requirements. So he approaches the data engineer. Now the data engineer now designs the database based on the requirements that you've given him or her. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll go to the next part. Okay. We'll go to the skills needed to become a data analyst. So becoming a data analyst requires you to have some sort of skills. So the first skills that a data analyst should hone in his toolkit: mathematics and statistical ability. So that is one of the things that a data analyst should know. So good background in mathematics and statistics is key. So, but if you don't have skills in mathematics, or maybe you are coming from a different background, maybe you can take some short courses on mathematics and statistics so that you'll be able to interpret this data. So some analysis actually require you to have a good know-how of statistics. So descriptive statistics, you must be able to know that is basic statistics. Also, we have advanced statistics that you should able to know. So I believe all of you are from mathematics and statistics background. And maybe you have some know-how of mathematics and statistics. Yeah, but I think we'll cover some of the statistics and I will cover some statistics when we'll be doing Excel. So there is no need to worry on that. Another thing is knowledge of programming language. such as Python, SQL, and R. So I believe you've had some of these softwares such as Python, SQL, and R. So maybe after you've learned Excel, Power BI, and maybe SQL, you have to choose one programming language that is either Python or R. You can choose either one of them. So this will actually achieve you when you are doing advanced analytics in data. For example, when you are doing deep learning, when you are doing some machine learning and so on, you have actually to be knowledgeable of one of the programming languages such as Python and R. So, and also SQL. So SQL is a language that is used to retrieve data from databases. So you must be able to retrieve data from SQL from relational database systems. So all these are necessary toolkits for you to become an efficient data analyst. So the third skill set is on data visualization. So whenever you do any data analytical task, there you will definitely be required to present this information to the business owner or to the management. So having good grasp of data visualization on how you can present your data to business owners or managers is key. So you must be able to know tools such as Power BI and Tableau. So far, these are the best tools, Power BI and Tableau. So knowing either Tableau or Power BI is necessary for you to actually be able to visualize your data and present it to the management in an appealing format. So that is one of the key skills that you actually need to have. So another skill that you need to know is you really need to have an analytical mindset. So sometimes you just have to be curious, asking relevant questions and seeking answers to those questions will actually enable you to become a good data analyst. And the fifth skill is actually you must have excellent communication skills. So remember, when you are presenting the findings from your data to the management, maybe your boss actually is not well conversant with what is going on at the back end. So maybe what he wants to know is he wants just to know the results, how the business is performing. So you must actually be able to know how to present your findings to a non-technical audience. Maybe your CEO does not come from a technical background. Maybe he doesn't understand maybe some of the programming maybe used behind the data. So you actually must be able to actually present your findings in a very efficient way so that at the end of the day everyone understands what's happening or understands your findings, and maybe understands the general idea of what is behind the data. So you must be actually have good communication skills. Yeah, any question regarding the skill set needed to become a data analyst? So far these are the skills that are very key if you want to become an efficient data analyst. Maybe any question from your end or a comment?
All good. No comment.
Winnie, are you good?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay. Okay. I think we'll cover this last bit and then we end there. And then tomorrow we shall begin from metrics of data quality. But I'll just introduce uh, this concept of data quality assessment. So maybe if I can pose a question, maybe if you have a rough idea of what data quality means or data quality assessment. Winnie, what do you understand by the term data quality?
Okay. So I'll take first the word quality. Like, is the data, is everything you've done of quality, and will it give us the purpose of, will it answer the why that you started with before? Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, you really have to make sure whether your data, does it measure up, does it actually hold, will actually this data that you have, will it enable you to achieve your purpose at the end of the day? So uh, that's what data quality maybe entails. That's a good attempt. Maybe Ruth, what do you maybe understand by the term data quality? Maybe from your own opinion.
Uh, from my own opinion, I'll say, is the data what we need to get a certain result? Does it have, if, for example, we're seeking for a certain, we're studying something, does this data have what it takes to give us the answer? I'll say that is all about the quality, or the information or the data in it. Is it going to give us the right answer?
Mhm. Yeah. That's it. So that's perfectly correct. So actually, the term data quality refers to the suitability of the data to serve its intended purpose. Yeah, so you don't have to waste your energy doing an analysis that won't enable you to achieve the end goal or won't enable you to achieve your objective at the end of the day. So you must make sure that your data is actually suitable for the purpose that you intend. So this concept of data analyst, I think majority of the organization or companies uh, have been struggling up with the idea of data quality. So we must make sure that the data that we have doesn't contain errors. The data that we have doesn't contain missing information. It doesn't contain invalid entries and so on, so that at the end of the day we have a pure result that is informative of what we intended to achieve. Yeah. So for example, you can actually foresee the implication that a company will get, maybe by having the data that is of poor quality, assuming that they have used that, they have analyzed that data and they're just using it to make decisions. So it might actually negatively impact the company. So in terms of loss of revenue, loss of customers, high customer churn rate, and so on, just simply because the data is of poor quality. So data quality is actually key when before you start doing your data analysis. So one aim of data quality is that it enable you to identify where the gaps are in the data and what do you need in order to fill those gaps in the data, so that at the end of the day we can achieve our purpose. Yeah. So it also enable us to avoid cost limit mistakes. So maybe if our data is of poor quality, we might end up making mistakes that might actually be costly to the company. So we must ensure that our data is of good quality. So we must understand what are the strengths of our data, what are the weaknesses that we have in our data, and also when we've foreseen that there are some weaknesses in this data, what steps can we take in order to improve its quality. So that is where we need to ensure our data is of high quality. So, and how will you ensure that your data is of high quality, is of standard? So there are some metrics that we need to set in place. So, and those are called data quality assessment metrics. So these are actually a framework that will define whether our data is of good quality or of good standard. So there are metrics that we need to make sure they are met, so that we ensure that our data is of good quality. So I think it actually brings us to the next step of what are the metrics that we need to observe in order to ensure that our data is of good quality. So one of it is completeness. So completeness is one of the metrics of data quality. So we must make sure that our data is complete. So we must make sure all our fields in our data are filled, that we do not have missing information. So for example, if the customer information in a database is required, so for example, maybe you need both the first name and the last name of the customer. So we must make sure that in the database, both both these variables, that is first name and the second name, all that data is captured. So if now a particular field is missing, maybe the last name is missing, so that data will be regarded as being incomplete. Yeah. So for example, when I'm given data to analyze, so I have to cross-check, is my data complete? Do I have some missing information in my data? So if yes, to what percentage? For example, if I have missing data, what percentage does it contribute to my data set? Is it minimal or it's just a small percentage? If I have a lot of missing data in my record, so it means that I have maybe to look for ways in which I can collect that information of that customer. Yeah, so that is completeness. That's one of the metrics that we need to observe to ensure that our data is of good quality. So another metric is validity. So data is regarded as being valid if it matches the rules that is specified for it. So for example, you might be collecting information maybe in a particular field, maybe it's preserved for age, and maybe you have a field for dates. So you might find maybe where there is age, there is information for date, so that is an invalid entry in that column. So you must make sure that all the columns, they contain the same information of the customer. So if this column contain maybe customer name, so it should be customer name throughout. The other age, it should be like that. So there must be that coherence in your data field, that is in your columns of data. So you must make sure that you have valid entries in your data. So another metric is on accuracy. You must make sure your data is accurate. So that is self-explanatory. So you know the implication that may arise if your data is inaccurate. Yeah. So accuracy is another metric that we actually need to make sure is met when we are assessing data quality. Another thing is consistency. So data is regarded to be consistent if it if it matches or if all the entries are valid. If, for example, you can have a birth date that is entered in the system using the US format, and so as you know, we have different time systems. So, and you learn this when we'll be doing, for example, Microsoft Excel. So one key features in Excel is the date formats. So you must make sure that when you are analyzing data, for example, using Excel, you must make sure that your dates are consistent. So for example, if your date format, it's month, day, year, it should be like that throughout. If it's year, day, month, it should be like that throughout. So when you ensure that there is consistency in the data, it will actually enable you to analyze your your data easily, and it will actually enable you have an easy time when you are actually summarizing maybe your data using these date formats. Yeah. Another thing regarding consistency is whether, for example, this arises when you are importing data. Maybe you are importing it from SQL, you are importing it from Microsoft Access, or from any other database. So you might find some time when you import this data, it is coming up as strings, yeah, as text values and not as numbers. So you have to convert this text to strings so that it is consistent with maybe the data format in Excel. For example, I'm assuming you are using Excel to analyze your data so that you can be able to summarize that data with convenience. So another metric is timeliness. So with timeliness, this concern with the relevance of the information at that time. So you must ensure that the data that you are getting is timely when you need it. For example, if a customer has notified us that he has changed the address, so in the system that should also be captured. So we want our database to always be containing the up-to-date biodata or information regarding his details. So those are how many? These are almost 5 metrics that we actually need to observe when we are checking for data quality. So maybe if there is any question regarding the metrics that we've just discussed.
I'm fine.
You're fine, eh?
Mm.
So I just share with you the PPT so that you can go through it on your own. So, and maybe you can come up with other metrics that you deem are necessary in ensuring that our data is of good quality, so that when we are actually analyzing it, we are able actually to derive what we intended to achieve before we began the analysis. So I think I'll stop there for today. We'll pick from there tomorrow. So tomorrow we will discuss on modern data management practices and also see the best practices to achieve modern data management practices, and also see on characteristics of modern data management. So, and when we are done with that, we will be done with our introduction of the course. and we'll now dig deeper into the meat now of the course when we will now start Excel. So hope you've actually enjoyed the session. Maybe I'll give each and every one of you to say a word, or maybe to give feedback on how the session has been, or maybe just your suggestion, or maybe something you need, maybe you think should be, or you have a question, and so on. Maybe I'll start with you, Ruth.
Me, I'm okay. The session have been good. Yeah. So far, so good. Good introduction. Looking forward for more and more notes.
Okay. Thank you. Winnie?
Yeah, the session has been good also to me, and at least now it's a bit clearer on what data analytics.
Data
Um,
analytics.
that word.
Yes.
Now it's more clearer now. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I didn't want us to just begin the training without you having a clear view of what really data analytics is and what it actually entails. Yeah, so you should know where you are going before even you start.
Yeah, and that is it's clear. It's
Yeah,
clear. So I'm glad.
yeah. So I'm also good to have pleasure to have this session with you. So we'll meet up tomorrow. So I wish you all a lovely evening.
You too. Thank you.
You're
You too.
welcome.
Bye.